It's time to pick a side. The border war is on the air with BG and TanMan.
Gang, welcome into episode 154 of the Border War. I am the TanMan, and I am joined to my right by a down, salty. What's a good descriptive word?
I have no
right
idea
now?
what you're talking about. I'm fine. I am absolutely fine. None of that bothers me anymore.
By a BG in denial.
No,
there you go.
I wish I was
a BG in denial.
No. Let me couch this. I'm not saying it's a good thing I feel that way. But what did I tell you last week?
Listen,
I told you this was the first Clemson, South Carolina game in forever that I could remember that I didn't have any dread at all.
Yeah, I think on some level with all of our teams, between the two of us, we're both just like, okay, man, whatever. You can follow the show on Twitter at The Border War. I am at Tar Heel TanMan. He is at BG_Border War. Don't forget you can like and share our page on Facebook as well as whatever platform you enjoy getting your weekly dose of the Border War from. So, BG, let's get right into it. We got one show this week and a lot we're cramming in. Let's cut out the niceties.
Yep.
6 wins in a row for the Clemson Tigers over the Gamecocks. This one, what was the final? 38-3?
38-3.
It was not. It did not feel 38-3 close.
It wasn't that good. I saw somebody tweet out. It was the most emotionless South Carolina Clemson game I think I've ever watched in my life. I texted you early in the third quarter, and I think I said something like, neither one of these teams want this game to keep going.
No,
both of those teams looked like they just wanted to go to the locker room. Everybody knew what was going to happen. Completely disinterested. Coaching staffs, fan base, No, I kind of likened it to like picking on the kid. Like when you're in class when you were a kid, and there was one kid who he didn't really have a bunch of friends, and there was always somebody who wanted to pick on him. Why are you picking on that kid? That's what Saturday felt like to me. Well, it reminded me of like when you play Madden or something, and at first it's fun to play on rookie mode, right? I've won 42 games in a row, and then somewhere in the middle of the 43rd game, you're like, I can't do this anymore. This is not fun.
No
challenge at all for Clemson. It like you said, it almost was like they felt sorry for South Carolina. Somebody tweeted it out. I think it was Bakari Sellers, former U.S. representative from South Carolina, said Dabo could have hung 70 on them.
Which is what we said last week.
We thought they would, because we thought they were auditioning, but look, to South Carolina's credit, the defense played with some want to. There just wasn't anything completely overmatched. There wasn't anything they could do. And there was a period of time in the first quarter where it looked like South Carolina might keep it interesting for a half. But when the offense goes out there, can you imagine what it's like to be Javon Kinlaw and company, and you make a big goal line stand and you're –
I thought when they made that goal line stand like you, I thought, okay, well, maybe they'll hang around for a little while.
Don't misunderstand me. There was
it.
Never a time when I thought South Carolina had a chance to win the game. But I thought South Carolina at that point, I said maybe they'll keep it within 20 points. Maybe it'll be an interesting score, kind of like the Alabama game, something like that.
Yeah.
But again, and I told the people I was watching it with, I was like, watch this offense, though. I'm telling you, Brian Edwards isn't playing. There is no chance this offense does anything. And they really did not, man. Just did not. Could not.
Let's talk a little bit about some of the aftermath, because the game itself was frankly not interesting enough to spend much more time talking about.
And we have to pace ourselves. We still got Cowboys to criticize, Redskins to criticize.
We got a lot to criticize here on this show. But some of the fallout from South Carolina, look, it appears that you may have been right. I'm still not sold on the
you still think there's a chance he's not coming back next year?
I think there's a small chance. Yeah, I think it's small. But anyway,
that's wrong.
Anyway,
he's coming back.
Some of the coaching staff, it looks like they're going to throw some of the coaches under the bus. They're going to change that again.
Strength and conditioning guys gone.
Offensive
Jeff Dillman,
guy.
the guy they brought in to coach quarterbacks for 2 seasons, his name slips my mind right now. He's out. But he wasn't the one calling the plays. Now, Brian McClemmon's not going to be calling plays. I've seen it.
So who is going to be calling the plays?
Well, they haven't named anybody yet. One of the rumors out there is that Bobby Bentley's going to call plays. Some people seem surprised he's still on staff because Jake Bentley yesterday announces he's going to transfer. I don't know why anybody's shocked by that or why anybody thought there was any chance.
Well, I had heard the rumor that Bobby Bentley was not going to be back.
Well,
take that for what it's worth.
Maybe the way he is going to be back is to be made offensive coordinator. But we don't know. There's no point in getting into conjecture. You're going to see everybody's second cousin and their mother's name come up in this. None of it's probably true. We won't know until we know. So I don't want to waste a lot of time talking about what I think is going to happen because I don't have an informed opinion. It wouldn't be surprising to me if it's somebody off staff to see somebody like Mike Bobo that Muschamp has a track record with, and that has been a failure somewhere else, because that's a prereq for Will Muschamp. He wants to find guys that have not been able to do it someplace else so they can come to South Carolina and not be able to do it.
I think I saw someone...
I still won't believe Chad Morris until it happens. I just don't think that's even a...
Well, no, I think when Texas... I saw where Texas, I think, fired their offensive coordinator.
Okay.
That screams Chad Morris to me. Tom Herman and Chad Morris together down there.
Yeah.
That just... I think the Chad Morris South Carolina thing is out. I think that...
I don't know that it was much of a thing
Maybe
to start
not.
with. I really don't.
I saw someone tweet something out over the weekend that said, it was one of these. My sources tell me one of these reporter guys. I think he had talked to one of the big time people inside the program, big money guy, and they basically said, "Look, we're getting really tired of Will Muschamp hiring his buddies and letting them come cut their teeth on our dime.
On South Carolina's dime." And that's exactly what he's been doing. And it's his loyalty to his guys that is going to ultimately cost him his job.
Look, I had this discussion over the weekend with someone, and I think that you guys are getting ready to make the same mistake that we did last year with Larry Fedora, okay? We both talked about it several times, and we thought, I don't know that firing Larry Fedora is the right move. In hindsight, it was, and they probably should have done it a year earlier.
Right.
I think they held on to Fedora, again, in hindsight, a year too long.
Because you're one of these, you've turned into the guy that thinks you know what you know earlier than you used to.
Right.
It's been 4 seasons.
Yeah.
What do you really think? But this is about money.
Well, I got you there.
Okay.
All right. South Carolina is one of the top 20 athletic departments, monetarily wise, in the country. All right, they got bukus of money. North Carolina, the latest numbers that I found were somewhere in the 30s. Okay, North Carolina fired Larry Fedora with 4 years remaining on the contract, $12 million. I'm not a math major.
Yeah.
That's $3 million a year. Paid out monthly is about $250,000 a month. Do you know what Will Muschamp? If you were to fire Will Muschamp today, do you know what you would be paying Will Muschamp a month? You'd be paying him a little bit less than $317,000 a month.
But you're going to get like 3 or 4 wins for that, man.
All right. If you wait a year and fire him,
that was a joke, by the way.
You want me to hit the button?
Yes,
man?
please do.
If you fire Will Muschamp next year when his buyout drops to 15.3, do you know what you're paying him every month for the remaining 4 years on the deal?
$270.
$318,000.
Okay.
You're paying him the same amount of money regardless. So why are you going to just throw away a year?
Well,
because here's the difference. North Carolina was very, very fortunate twice in the fact when you take Roy Williams and when you take Mac Brown, that when they made bad hires in the two most visible sports, they had guys, Hall of Fame guys, with ties to the university already there, willing to step in and basically save the program. South Carolina has none of that. And if you just throw a year away like they're getting ready to do,
sure,
this program is getting ready to become Kentucky, what Kentucky was before Mark Stoops got there. They are getting ready. They are teetering on the verge of irrelevancy.
Didn't I say that last week?
I don't know.
I told you, man. I told you. South Carolina football is about to fall off of the cliff, and it may take it 20 years to come back. It may never come back. And I know what people are saying. I mean, and they're right. Come back to what? I mean, it's never really been anything. Well, it's been a 500 football program.
Well, for the last, I would say for the last 20 years, it's been a fairly respectable program.
Yeah, we're talking about 4-8 becoming the norm.
Yes,
that's what we're talking about. I absolutely agree with you. I think the flip side of this too is, and again, this is just me trying to get inside Ray Tanner's head. I can't ask him personally. You may have heard he blocked me on Twitter. I know I never talk about that. But Ray Tanner was a coach, yes? Mm-hmm. And so I think he's still a coach. I think he thinks like a coach. And I think he made a commitment to Will Muschamp verbally when they spoke, when the hire happened, that I'll give you at least 5 years. And I think he thinks as a coach, I owe him that. I would want that. I want other coaches that I might hire in the future to know that when I tell them they're going to get this, they're going to get it. I'm not agreeing with any of that. I'm just telling you that I'm trying to make it make sense if it's not about money, because you make a very good argument there.
This can't be about money.
So does that... I don't want to use the word make sense, because no, it doesn't make sense. But do you see where I'm coming from with that?
No, I mean, I see that point of view.
Do you think that might be what's going on?
I see that point of view, but I would also say, look, yes, you want to show that you are a man of your word. If you tell a coach, look, I'll give you...
No. I'm asking you, do you think that's what's going on? Do you think that's what this is?
Well, it has to be that, because, again, if the money is the same,
right,
then what are we talking about here? So if that's the case, then yes, you know.
Well, and I think there's a chance too. If you want to make the money argument, there's a chance Will Muschamp's about to cost them a lot of money too, by staying.
Well, and that's probably what should happen.
That's what should happen.
That's exactly what's happening. Quit renewing your tickets when they pick up. Because here's the thing: when the Washington Redskins or Dallas Cowboys stink, you know what they don't do? They don't pick up the phone and call me and you and go, "Hey, would you like to donate some money to us?" Right?
Right.
South Carolina is going to pick up the phone tomorrow, and they're going to call somebody.
Yeah.
They're going to go, hey, would you like to make a donation? And they're going to go, they need to say, hell no.
Right.
No. Not as long as this is going on. Absolutely not. That's the only way this stuff changes.
And historically...
It changes at Florida State.
Historically, South Carolina fans have been not the people to do that.
Well,
and maybe they need to learn that lesson.
That's a them problem. So let's move on to a happier topic. Let's talk bowl games. Bowl games, BG. I know that's not something that is in the BG world right now, but the Tar Heels, like we said before the year, 6-6 was a real possibility. We felt like, I didn't want them to head up to Raleigh with the bowl game on the line. I was worried that it might turn into a little tougher struggle than need be. First half was rough. Third quarter, they came out and basically put the foot on the Wolfpack's throat, finished the thing 41-10.
Get to 6-6 and head into a bowl game. Score. I was surprised it got that out of hand.
I think there's a lot going on there. I didn't realize NC State was on like their third or fourth quarterback of the year. I mean, they've got a lot of issues up there.
Yeah.
But the defense stepped up, and for all the injuries that a lot of teams not talking about the Gamecocks. I am talking about the Gamecocks. Like to use the injuries as an excuse a lot of times. Listen, North Carolina has been banged up as much or more than anybody in the country. And somehow they found a way week after week to stay in ball games, to win big ball games. Finish it out, again, 41-10 in Raleigh. They get to 6 wins. A huge accomplishment for Mack Brown, the Tar Heels. So let's take a look at a couple of possible bowl destinations, BG. Tell me what you think about some of these for the Tar Heels. Now, we've got the military. We've got a couple. Got them headed up to Annapolis to play in the Military Bowl. One of them has them playing Temple. The other one would be Navy. That makes it basically a road game for the Tar Heels for the bowl game.
I don't want Navy on a neutral field. I sure don't want them in Annapolis.
No. Let's see. We got another one here. This is Brett McMurphy. He's got the Tar Heels going to the Military Bowl against Temple on ESPN. I think they've got another one with the Military Bowl. But here's one, Belk Bowl against Florida Atlantic. That's my favorite. That's where I want to land.
You don't need this to get big TV ratings. You don't need a big crowd to show. You just need to win. You just need to win.
You just want to win.
You want to say you had a winning season in Matt Brown's first year at North Carolina. That's what you want.
I don't want to go to Detroit and play somebody that's 6-6 from the Big Ten. I don't want any of that. You go to Charlotte. You play Florida Atlantic. You're close to home.
I think that's a likely scenario.
And by the way, where is the prize recruit that you're trying to close the door on?
Right.
Ding, 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 ding.
There you
are. There you are. So Tar Heels heading for a bowl game at BG. Look, I'm excited, man. Listen, 2 years.
Yeah, you should be.
2 years, 5 wins, looking terrible. Saturday was a ton of fun. I might even go up to that. If they go to Charlotte, I might even go up there. Might go check them out.
You'll check those prices first, and then you'll change your mind.
Really?
I was in the same boat last year, man. I was very surprised by what those Upper Deck Belt Bowl tickets cost. I was like, okay. And I'm glad in retrospect because I would have been so unhappy if I had spent. I want to say they were in the 70s.
No.
I want to say it was in the 70s, $75, $76. I could be wrong.
Well, if there's $76, the TanMan's staying at home, but
I could be wrong, but that's my recollection.
Well, surely not. Tomorrow night, it'll be tonight. It's Tuesday as we're recording this. The college football playoff rankings will come out, and before we hit the air again next week, we will know the Final Four in the college football season. So, BG, a loaded slate of games that will be on the pick slate at some point later on tonight, early tomorrow, a number of which are going to greatly affect the playoff rankings, maybe the understatement of the year. So, BG, give me your thoughts on, we're sitting here next week. The conference title games have played out. It's all over but the crying. Who are the last 4 teams playing with a chance to win a national championship?
Well, I mean, we're really just talking about one team, right? We're really just talking about who the 4th team is. Are we? I mean, obviously, the LSU-Georgia game, that's big time. So I think you have 2 scenarios there. If LSU beats Georgia, Georgia's that's
out.
Not even a thing. So the LSU, though, is LSU in?
Yes.
If they lose a close game to Georgia, then
I think right now LSU and Ohio State are as rock solid locks.
I agree with those 2.
Yeah, unless they go out there and get beat 100-0.
Well, Clemson's a pretty rock solid lock too.
I think Clemson. A lot of people think that. And Dabo Swinney kind of went on this rant after the game Saturday. If we lose one game, they'll send us to 30. Blah blah blah. Blah. Stop. I think my opinion.
No, I'm getting hammered on Twitter right now.
Yeah, no, for
saying that sounded crazy.
I think Clemson's in regardless of what happened Saturday.
Yes.
Now, again, if they go out there and get beat 70-7, maybe we're having a different. It's not going to happen.
Come on.
If they go out there and they lose 38-35, I think they're still in.
And they're not.
And they're not going. They're not going to.
They're going to win 45-6. I mean, this isn't a thing. I mean, I don't know what to tell you.
But
I need to talk about this some. He sounds like an absolute lunatic when he says this stuff.
Now listen, you know what he is he's the same thing that he was now. He's the same thing now that he was the day he got the job. And I remember having this conversation with the guy I worked with.
A used car salesman?
He's a used car salesman, man. And that's why I told him, I laughed at him. I said, you guys hired a car salesman to be your head coach. I feel kind of dumb now, but he is. He's the same thing now as he was then. He's selling, man. He's always selling.
Yeah.
Good for him. Now, you sound like a moron sometimes. But that's all that was. That's a sell job. He doesn't really believe that. No way he really believes that.
Where is all this SEC bias argument coming from? Who's on this committee? Are these all SEC people? Dan Radakovich was on the committee 2 seasons ago. Did he have SEC bias? I mean, I don't understand. These are national people. In some cases, they're not even really football people.
I think the head of the committee,
Condoleezza Rice was on this thing. Do they have SEC bias?
What is that? I think the head of the committee this year might be the Pac-12 guy.
Does he have SEC bias?
Well, I'm sure he's probably got the furthest thing from SEC bias.
So you're telling me the head of the thing is the committee the head of the committee is the guy from the conference who has no prayer in hell of getting anybody in the playoff, but we're going to say there's bias.
Listen, again, he's selling. He's a salesman. It's what he does.
Clemson's going to get into the playoff with the worst schedule that has ever been had in the history of this thing, and instead of having anti-Clemson bias, the only reason they're getting in is because they're Clemson.
Well, look.
Tell me I'm wrong.
The reason they're getting in is because they're Clemson, but they're in the group now. Now, we've talked about this before. I don't necessarily think that they're in the group in perpetuity, but right now they're in there. They're in there with the Alabamas and the Ohio States. They're in that small group.
Yes.
So Clemson is going to get a mulligan. They just are, and I'm not buying the whole if they lose.
I guess my thing is when he makes it sound like that people are picking any reason they can to leave Clemson out of this. I'm not questioning why he says it. I'm questioning why anybody buys it.
Well, now I will say this: I do think that if you gave them a reason to leave them out, I think they might would take it. I just don't.
But that reason, but they would be trying to leave them out based on what? Because they just don't like Clemson, or because they looked really crappy the first half of the season against teams that shouldn't have even been on the field with them?
No, I think that the Alabama Clemson fatigue thing is real. So if you give them if you give them a reason that they can justify leaving them out, they probably would, but I just don't think one loss is going to do it. Like one loss wasn't going to do in Alabama. There was still a good chance they were going to get in up until they lost at Auburn Saturday.
Yeah.
I don't think one loss is going to do Clemson or Alabama in. So at this point, they can't get but one more loss, right? So that's it. They're in.
One loss total.
That's it. They're in. So the fourth spot is up for grabs. Obviously, I think we're both in agreement. Georgia wins.
Does all this complaining about the bias, though, does that start to give people a reason to leave them out? Now you got national media members coming out and saying, "Man, shut up! You're annoying us. Quit it."
They've been telling him to shut up.
Nah, I haven't heard it from national guys.
Oh no, you don't remember that every time they won a game, he'd get up in front of a microphone at midfield with some reporter and go, "Oh my gosh, we're just so dang happy to win this football. Oh, little old Clemson." And they were all telling him to shut up then, man.
Well, yeah, but I'm not talking about making fun of him. I'm talking about them saying, "All right, man, you're acting like this. You do this stuff every year." And that was before they had won a title.
Yeah.
This is different to me. I mean, I think that this has struck a nerve with people that I haven't seen it strike before. I'm not talking about local guys around here who are just tired of it. I'm talking about,
we're tired of
national ESPN figures being like, "Man, sit down. Stop pushing that there's this thing going. There's not."
Well, it's almost like they want to tell him, "Look, man, you've made the sale. You're in the club. Stop. You've already made it, man."
So many of his fans are so brainwashed that they can't see how ridiculous they sound. And the thing about it is they're not even enjoying what they're going through. This doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Why are you not happy?
Listen,
it blows my mind.
Ask Florida State how quickly all that stuff is gone.
And I'm telling you this.
It can be gone like that.
They honestly don't think it ever will be. Because a lot of them think that God himself, that Jesus Christ has said this team's going to win because they're just better people than everybody else. All right, have fun with that, guys. Have fun with that.
So basically, we're down
it won't last forever.
We're down to 3 teams, I think, we feel like for one spot. Well, 4 if you count Georgia. Here's what gets me. Ever since we've started the rankings for this season, right, the committee has consistently told you, we think Utah is better than Oklahoma. We think Utah is worlds better than Baylor, because when the rankings were out a couple weeks ago, Baylor was down there like 13 when they were sitting there at 8-0, 9-0, whatever it was before the Oklahoma game. They've told you, listen, Utah is better than both of those teams. And now all of a sudden, I feel like they've built themselves an out, and Utah is going to wind up getting screwed in this whole deal. Even if they win Friday, I'm calling the Big 12 gets that fourth team in, provided asterisk that LSU takes care of their business and wins the SEC. I think Utah's getting jumped, man. I really do.
I could see that. There's no question. I mean, Utah to me was the one team that just, at the beginning of the season, it looked like all they had to do was win one game. They couldn't win the one game.
Let me ask you a question. How many times...
I think that's where Jake Bentley's going.
I saw that as one of the spots.
I think that's where he's going.
How many times have you been able to actually sit down and watch a half an hour of a Utah football game? Like, how many primetime games have Utah
I think I've watched that much twice this season.
Was it a primetime slot? Because
No. I had to stay up for it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Nobody's watching Utah. No one has seen Utah. They're not getting any of these. Meanwhile, of course, they're pumping Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Baylor's gotten some primetime spots. They're going to get this. They're going to play this Pac-12 game on a Friday.
I will agree with you there. If there's any agenda, it's not an anti-Clemson agenda. It's an anti-TV ratings agenda. Some schools move the needle. Some schools don't. Utah definitely doesn't.
They're going to play this Pac-12 thing on a Friday night on Fox. Nobody's going to know that it's even being played. The stadium is going to be 2/3 empty out there in San Francisco. Meanwhile, they're going to put Oklahoma and Baylor. They're going to play the game in Jerry's World. It's going to be noon Saturday. It's going to be the first game of the day Saturday, right?
Yeah.
And again, Utah is not moving. Nobody's watched Utah. No one's seen them. They're not moving the TV ratings, but they know, hey, man, we can slide Oklahoma right in here, and man, we're good to go.
It's almost like the chairman of the committee is not doing his job if he's got all this bias, right? Weird.
I don't know, but I'm telling you, I just have a feeling Utah is going to wind up getting the shaft in this deal. I hate it.
Oh, I don't.
Because
that
was one of your playoff
sure
picks,
wasn't it? It was. Because I thought they were going to go undefeated and leave it not arguable. Because if you looked at their schedule, it really did set up nicely. But
they had one hiccup.
Yeah.
One bad afternoon.
And they're not quite
but
on
again, no one saw it.
They're not on the Central Florida level.
No.
But, there are teams out there that are in the position that Dabo's saying Clemson's in. And,
they're all in the Pac-12.
A lot of them are.
They're all in the Pac-12. The Pac-12 is on – the Pac-12, as far as the college football playoff committee is concerned, they might as well be the American Conference, man. You've got to run the table.
Let me make sure I understand this. You're telling me that you think it's the conference that's been left out of the playoff every year but once that's getting the shaft and not the school that's gotten in every year?
Yes.
What?
Yes. Well, they did get in two teams. They've gotten in twice.
Who was the other? Washington. And who?
And Oregon the first year.
Oregon. Yeah, the first year.
That's right. So far now in the rearview mirror now that no one even remembers that. That's the only one Clemson hasn't been in. But that's, that might as well have been 40 years ago now.
It feels like.
But the Pac-12 is you've got to run the table, and
even then,
they're basically a mid-major football conference as far as I'm concerned.
It's like our buddy on Twitter sitting there saying if all 5 power conferences had gone undefeated, he thought Clemson would get. I'm like, that is the craziest thing I've ever heard in my life. It would have been the Pac-12.
No way.
How can you even say that stuff and look yourself in the mirror? It's unreal to me. It's unreal. I don't even know how you respond to some of this stuff. I really don't.
Listen, that's why between Gamecock Twitter and Clemson Twitter, I just didn't even.
Why are you throwing us into this?
Because Gamecock Twitter is
just pure entertainment.
It's a cesspool.
It is not meant to be taken. Gamecock
it's
Twitter.
It's a cesspool too.
It is not a cesspool. It's pro wrestling.
I have stayed off Twitter for like 2 weeks. Like I hardly even opened the app on my phone. Like I can't do this. I cannot do it.
Well, I just got my really first nasty inbox message during the show here because I said that.
Read it on the air.
No, I'm not doing that. Because I said that, because ABC News in Columbia was reporting that Ryan Helinski had a torn ACL, so crazy me for believing it, right? And everybody's coming back at me. Now, here's my thing about that.
So they're saying now there is no ACL.
That he didn't have a torn ACL or MCL, but it's a torn meniscus, which actually is more painful. My point was
much
this.
more common.
My point was this. The kid had no mobility in the pocket. So whether you're not, saying he was medically cleared, check, great. That doesn't mean it's the right thing to do to put him in there for his health and his safety. When a guy is a sitting duck in the pocket for concussions, for sacks, for unnecessary hits, the television announcers on the Clemson broadcast were openly questioning, why is this kid in the game? He can't walk to the sideline. So if you're coming at me with, don't say he was defenseless, you're full of it. He was flat out defenseless, and he has been since the Florida game.
Nah, as soon as bowl
and Will
eligibility
Muschamp
was off the table,
get ready to ring your bell on this. Will Muschamp was in save my ass mode, not in do what's best for Ryan Helinski mode. And yes, I think that makes me lose a lot of respect for him. Live with it. If you don't like it, whatever. I can't. Will Muschamp is not a good person. You can look at him when he talks. He doesn't like answering questions. The guy's an asshole. He just is. Right? And if Ryan Helinski's family is okay with this, look, just because they had a tragedy happen to them, maybe they're all assholes too. I don't know. Maybe they like other assholes. What I'm telling you is that from a football standpoint, Ryan Helinski didn't need to be in those games. They couldn't score with him. He had no mobility. He was not safe back there. And that's just my football opinion. Whether or not he bought into it, whether or not the player and his family said, please don't take him out. Your job as a football player or a football coach is to take care of that human being first and foremost. Am I wrong? I'm just saying. No respect for this staff anymore. I'm done with them.
So does that officially close the book on Will Muschamp talk on this show?
I can't promise that.
For the next few months. Because he's going to keep his job. I mean,
but there's going to be staff hires. Things are going to pop up. Over
to the NFL to close out this week's episode, BG. Before we came on the air, some big news broke out of Charlotte. Ron Rivera is out with Carolina Panthers. David Tepper pulled that trigger. I thought
we talked about it last week, man. This was not his coach.
No, I really thought that he would give him the rest of the year. I'm very surprised that he did that he pulled the move now. But let's face it, they're not at 5-7. I think they're not in the playoff hunt right now. So I guess Tepper said, "Look, let's just cut bait." You guys have an opening?
We did well, yeah.
If Ron Rivera wants a job,
no.
Yeah.
Man, you quit it, dude.
I'm saying if Ron Rivera wants a job tomorrow, he'll have a job in the NFL, right? Does Rivera sit the year out, or does he sit the year out, survey the landscape?
I don't know much about him as a dude. I mean, I've never gotten a good feel for Rivera. I did think this was coming. I'm like you. I thought it would be after the season. But, look, David Tepper, he's a new owner, right? And so far he's been an opinionated owner. I think he's trying to stake his claim of this is the kind of guy I'm going to be. We're not going to have that. And they committed the ultimate sin. They got their tail kicked by the Washington Redskins.
The only thing that I don't understand about this move, and look, that was probably, other than maybe the New York Jets beating the Cowboys in week 3 or 4, whatever that was, that might be the worst loss anyone's had.
But
all this year.
You said you didn't watch much of it. Here's my thing. It wasn't just like y'all losing to the Jets. It didn't feel like the Panthers.
I don't know. We got our butts kicked pretty handily.
But that's what I'm saying, man. The Redskins rushed. Man, they just handed it to Carolina. And the thing was, Washington scored all the points in that game once they started scoring. That game was 14-0 Carolina, and you felt like the Panthers just sort of stopped.
Yeah,
I don't know. It's a very strange
game. And that, you know what? And that might very well have been the nail in the coffin.
That it could have been. Because it looked like a game they should have won going away.
The thing that I don't get about this move is they're firing Rivera, which leads me to believe that that's probably it for Cam Newton. Like there's some kind of coin toss 50-50. He might be back, he might not. Blah blah. If you're gonna move on from Rivera, you're probably moving on from Cam Newton too, right? But they're gonna keep Marty Hurney, and they're gonna hire. I think they said they're going to hire an assistant GM and like a player personnel guy, like that's going to be the same job. So you're going to hire 2 guys for one job, and you're going to keep the GM who got fired.
Well, we've already talked
before,
about how that
like,
whole GM thing was. I didn't like the way that got handled right off the bat back 2 years ago when it happened.
Yeah, so
it was strange.
I don't know. It just strikes me as strange. Like, if you're going to do it, man, do it all. Just wipe the whole thing out. Get your new GM in there. Start fresh. But it seems like Tepper's just kind of dipping his toe. He's wanting to do a little bit, but he's wanting to paint the room, but he's not wanting to tear the wall down. Man, I don't know.
Well,
I
mean, Ron Rivera can only really be faulted, in my opinion, for doing what the rest of the world did, and that was go full in on Cam Newton.
No, he didn't have a choice.
He didn't have a choice.
You get the job, and you got the number 1 pick. He's the player to pick at number 1, and there you go. You're going to be married to him.
I'm still always thinking in my head when that topic comes up, because my take that year, and if we had been doing the show that year, I would have said it on the air, was to take A.J. Green. That's who I would have taken at number 1 overall.
A wide receiver at number 1?
And then what I would have done is I would have taken Russell Wilson at quarterback. I would have taken him in the 2nd round. I mean, it sounds great in hindsight.
I was just say, yeah, but I don't think looking back, if you knew that Russell Wilson was going to be what Russell Wilson is, then that's a no-brainer.
I said it on the show I recorded that day. I just wasn't on air.
That must be somewhere with the lost episode.
It is
from a couple years ago.
I can't find that.
No, if you knew Russell Wilson was going to be that, then of course he wouldn't have lasted until the middle of the 3rd round or whatever. But look, he comes in. You got the number 1 pick. Cam Newton was the no-brainer.
Then was it was one of those things where, as dominant as Cam was in college, have you ever seen that guy that's been that dominant in college, all the way back to Tommy Frazier, right? Have you ever seen those kids become what they were? I mean, they don't do it in the NFL. It never works. I think what you're learning right now, this is sort of a separate topic, but man, don't take quarterbacks in the 1st round.
Well, look, I says, even if I'll compare it to the NBA and Zion Williams, even if you felt like R.J. Barrett was a better prospect, or John Morant was a better prospect, and you've got the number 1 pick, you know what you can't do?
Yeah.
You can't pass on Zion Williamson. Rivera was in the same boat. Even if he thought one of his other, you can't pass. Weren't they 1-15?
They were.
Listen, man, you're not going anywhere without a quarterback.
They were coming off.
So he had to take
Casey Clausen as a starter.
Oh God! Oh gosh! Names that should not even be mentioned in the NFL. So anyway,
I'm pretty sure he's the first time we've ever said his name on the show.
Probably the last too. So anyway, Ron Rivera out in Charlotte, so it'll be interesting to see that. Listen, that's an attractive job.
Do you think Ron Rivera will get a head coaching job right away if
he wants one? That's what I was saying.
You don't think he would take the step down to DC for a season or 2? Okay.
No, and he shouldn't.
No, I agree with you. I'm just curious.
If he wants a head coaching job, he'll have one, kind of like John Fox.
So what you're telling me is
if he wants one, he'll have one next year. But I think
now
Rivera,
you think
I think he sits a year out and kind of surveys the landscape.
In the box, you think that we'll either get Rivera or your guy. Those are our only 2 choices.
Listen, I'll tell you this: if you can get Ron Rivera, you go get Ron Rivera, because he's going to be better than anybody else that you guys are going to go get.
Ron Rivera is not stupid enough to go to work for Dan Snyder.
Well, and that's the thing. He's not going there. No, I don't think any coach worth their salt would go up there.
No, we're going to get a first-time head coach.
Or
we're going to get a guy who's been fired twice and thought he would never get another crack.
Yeah.
Those are our 2 choices.
Especially
if Bruce Allen stays.
That's it. No coach worth his salt with the track record and respect that Rivera has is going to go to Washington as long as that current situation is in place. Now, if that situation changes, and we've started to hear that maybe there's some give on that end, finally, for you guys, then, okay. But no, if you can hire Ron Rivera in Washington, then you go hire Ron Rivera. It's not because he's going to be better than anybody else that y'all go get.
No question.
Hands down.
No question.
Coaching changes. that have not happened yet, but seem to be more likely by the day. The Dallas Cowboys.
When Jerry Jones stood
with
up in
another
that box
dud,
and walked out the back.
Boy, did that not speak volumes?
Woo!
Did that not basically tell you everything you need to know? And I'm going to tell you, the only thing that kept this from maybe having some saving grace, right? Because at this point, listen, the Panthers are playing out the string. You guys have been playing out the string since about the time training camp opened. And the Dallas Cowboys now, it feels like, okay, we're not beating the Niners, the Seahawks, the Packers. Like, we're not in the upper echelon. We're kind of playing out the string too. At this point, I'm going, you know what? Just lose them all, man. Everybody's ready for this guy to get gone. Do whatever it takes. And the freaking Eagles go out and lose to the Dolphins Sunday. And so even though we lost to the Bills, the Eagles lost to the freaking Dolphins. Yes. And we're still in first place. We might win the division at freaking 7-9, man.
Well, it certainly doesn't look like the Eagles want any part of the playoffs. I mean, like, it was sitting right there. Because y'all lost on Thursday. They know that.
Yep.
And you know what I think it was is I don't think Doug Peterson has that locker room tuned in enough to take the Miami Dolphins seriously.
And again,
they thought they were going to roll out there. We talked about it before the show, man. Miami hasn't won a lot of games. They're not an easy out. They're showing up and playing football.
Again, Clemson fans, it can all disappear like that. Ask the Philadelphia Eagles. Because last year...
You remember what I said about the Eagles before the season started, right?
I do not.
I picked Carson Wentz to win the MVP.
A lot of people did.
I picked them to lose to the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. That was my preseason Super Bowl pick. Chiefs and the Eagles.
Well, listen, mine's not much, but I think I had Chiefs and Cowboys.
I think you went with the Raiders versus the Raiders. You had the Los Angeles Raiders versus the Oakland Raiders.
Oakland Raiders.
One of them would have been the Las Vegas Raiders. You had 3 teams playing in the Super. I'm not sure
I think every team should rename the Raiders.
Why not?
We're going to have like the Green Bay Raiders, San Francisco Raiders, the London Redskins.
I was waiting on it, man. I'm sitting there waiting on you to say it. I guess I wasn't talking.
The Dallas Cowboys at this point, I don't know really what else there is. We kicked the Redskins out of the box, a month ago?
The Redskins are inching their way back in it. They're more interesting to talk about than the Cowboys right now.
Yeah.
I mean, they are.
Look, I'm about ready to kick the Cowboys out of the box. How many times can you have the same? They need to fire Jason Garrett.
Look, you feel like
that's everything that this and all this talk about. Players were in the locker room screaming and yelling after the game, and Dak Prescott's, I'm going to do. But listen, man, this damn thing has been going on now for 12 weeks. You didn't know that you needed a kick in the pants a month ago, and now all of a sudden you want to light the fire. Get out of here, man. Something is not right there. We all know what it is. Let's just hit the button and let's move on with our life, man. Do the David Tepper thing. Let's hit the button and let's move on.
Well, you wonder what. I don't know. I feel like Jerry gets too emotional about this stuff. Like, I mean, that's why you don't hire a dude that is one of your dudes outside because then you can't get rid of him. That's why Ray Tanner should have never been made athletic director of South Carolina. That's why Jerry Jones shouldn't hire somebody he considers a friend. Because that's what he's done, and that's why he's held on.
He cherry-picked.
We talked about this stuff.
He cherry-picked Jason Garrett before he ever hired Wade Phillips to be the head coach. He hired Wade Phillips and said, you're going to have Jason Garrett. Last minute and a half, BG, real quick. When Jason Garrett gets fired, because at this point it seems like it's an inevitability.
It'll be after the season.
It'll be after the season. Whenever he gets fired at some point, obviously not next year like Ron Rivera. He's not going to have Ron Rivera options. But at some point, does Jason Garrett ever become a head coach in the NFL again? Or was this it?
No. I don't think Jason Garrett gets another crack. Look, when's he going to have a better situation than this? When's he going to have a better quarterback, wide receiver, running back combo than he's got in Dallas right now?
He's not.
And so, what? Why would
I'll go on a limb, last 45 seconds. It wouldn't surprise me if Jason Garrett never coached again. and that whenever he got fired, he didn't just move into some front office role.
And he's a smart dude with other
He's a smart
interests.
guy.
I mean,
I think he went to Dartmouth.
Harvard.
He went to one of those smart kids.
They're all the
schools.
same place.
They're all the same place. No, I could see him winding up in the Cowboys front office when this thing's all said and done with.
In fact, I think you're probably on the money there. Surprised that hasn't already happened.
I usually am on the money.
What's that sound?
Well, considering that we have like less than 10 seconds to go, I think that's the end of the show.
Maybe he'll become a ghost pepper farmer.